welcome to GoCast. Today we're hosting Jennifer Hutton. She is VP IT at Steel Auto Group. Amazing conversation, starting from a formulaire at a cyber insurance company to becoming in charge of cybersecurity. Listen to GoCast. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you today. I'm very good, thank you, and welcome to GoCast. If you don't mind, Jennifer, can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, where you're from, and what you like, what you don't like, whatever you want to share would be amazing to hear.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. So I'm Jennifer Hutton. I am currently residing in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I work for the Steel Auto Group. We're a large auto group based in Atlantic Canada with stores in every Atlantic Canadian province as well as down in Texas. I'm the Vice President of Information Technology and Risk as well as the Chief Privacy Officer for the group here.
Wow, quite a lot of responsibility, I guess, right?
Just a little bit, yeah.
So when did you start in cyber or IT as per se?
I've been in IT for probably somewhere between 18 and 20 years now. And cyber, I think the first time that any of us old traditional IT people thought of cyber was probably 7 or 8 years ago. I can remember it wasn't something that was on my radar, and it wasn't something that was on many of my colleagues in IT's radar either. And it wasn't honestly until my CFO walked across the hall into my office one day and said, "The insurance company has some questions for you. Can you fill this out when you get a chance?" And I took the piece of paper and we were chatting about the weekend. I had just flown into Montreal and I'm going through this checklist and there's a couple of questions about multi-factor authentication and antivirus software. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 questions. So I ran through it, kind of going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, handed it back, never heard another word. The following year, uh, same thing, got an email with a PDF. The insurance company needs you to fill out that IT piece in the policy again. This time it had 15 or 20 questions, and some of them were very specific. And I remember thinking, this is interesting because the whole concept of cybersecurity insurance was not something that we had dealt with in that sector, which at the time I was working in manufacturing and CPG. So it was very interesting to me. And same thing, handed the piece of paper back or emailed it back, never heard another word. By the third year, it was the insurance company wants to meet with you. Had probably a half-hour conversation with the broker, started understanding more about cybersecurity insurance. By the fifth and sixth years, I was spending a month preparing to bind cyber insurance. We had portals that we had to log into and tons of carrier forms to fill out and all kinds of things to upload. So it really changed. I think that transition from IT to cybersecurity was just organic and it grew year over year.
That is absolutely interesting. It's the first time I hear a story like this one where you were asked by the cyber insurers, which today, I mean, all of the insurer are asking for that kind of information, right? But at the time, you were probably some of the first company to have to answer to those, right? And you mentioned antivirus. I think today it's more EDR and SIM, and they're asking very sophisticated stuff. From your experience, do you think that the stuff that they're asking makes sense with the reality of the one you're living it?
I think it really depends on the industry and the organization that you work for. I think if you're asking a company with 100 people or 50 people to implement PAM and SIM and an MDR and all of these other things that we've come to know, that's a tall order for somebody who may have an outsourced IT department or maybe just has other technical people within their organization that are managing technology. It's a very tall order.
That's true. You're right. And from what I recall, in the fine print of most of the cyber insured, they don't cover for ransomware. They don't cover for negotiation. They don't cover for a lot of, so they're asking a lot of stuff, but covering for not everything, I'd say. So that is a very interesting topic, the cyber insurance. And on your, journey through cyber, what is the, because I mean, you mentioned some technology. What is the actual ongoing buzzword, I'd say, because we live sometime on bubbles and stuff like that. What is the from your perspective, most, let's say, one TED thing in cyber that, let's say, in terms of solution, yes, but also software or service that it's a must right now?
I think we're all one of the things, and like I said, with the smaller companies, I don't think if you are a smaller company and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, it doesn't apply to me, I don't have to worry about it. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how big or small you are, you still have to be focused on data security and cyber. It just becomes more of a challenge when you don't have those resources within your own house. In terms of buzz, I think right now what we're, you know, I think last year, the year before, it was privileged access management. I don't know that from a cybersecurity insurer or just overall perspective, we have a buzz right now. I think the larger organizations are focusing on endpoint protection and, your MDR, XDR sort of solutions and services. Um, I think that's where we're at right now. But I sort of feel like we've plateaued. I mean, in my mind, from a tool perspective or from a preventative perspective, we're we're where we need to be, and we're not going to most likely get further ahead because as time goes on, these tools become more sophisticated as the threat landscape changes and grows. For me, the big focus is not on how to stop it, but how to deal with it when it happens. Because it's going to happen. It doesn't matter if you're an organization of two or 22,000. Um, you have to be prepared for this to happen. And where you're really going to see the benefits is not necessarily, I mean, definitely the tools that you deploy, but also how you remediate it. So how quickly you find it. And that's when your like MDR tools come into play, because you can see immediately that there's been some kind of intrusion, or hopefully if you've deployed your tools properly and you're monitoring them properly. I do hear from a lot of people that say, oh yeah, we have X solution. And then when we start talking about it, they quickly realize, well, maybe we're not actually utilizing the solution.
Mm.
Maybe we just signed a contract some time back, and we're not utilizing it. So I would say for me right now, and for a lot of people that I've spoken to, the buzz is around how do we deal with it when it happens? So incident response, disaster recovery, those types of things, business continuity. I think that's really where we're focusing now because we know that we're not always able to prevent it. There's been some very, very large companies that are constantly notifying of data breaches and notifying of cyber events. We can't stop it, but how quickly we can remediate it and minimize the damage is where we need to focus.
I think what you said is absolutely amazing. It's not the first time I hear that, and I think it's very true. In terms of tools and software, there's kind of a plateau. You can buy more stuff. It won't make you more secure, right? I think there's other stuff you have to do when you mention incident response, planning, mostly being ready for something, having a plan, a disaster recovery plan, and all of that. This is a really mature thing to say and to do as well. So congrats on that. But I think there's also maybe a people side of the things. How do you manage that? You must have a team or outsource it. What's your thought around, building, training, and having people for 24/7 monitoring? And of course, you have the tools, but what's your opinion on that?
So we have a bit of both. We do have an internal technical team, both on the technical side and on the security side, that works within the group. We also have a lot of partners, including Go Secure, that we work with for various aspects of our technology or our cyber defense program, I would say. We're also lucky enough in the group here to have a lot of support from the top down. So our entire senior leadership team is dedicated, and supports all of our cybersecurity initiatives. We have a very cyber aware culture, and that goes right down to our technicians in the shop understanding PII and understanding data security, and PCI compliance. Um, FTC compliance for our stores in the US. So we have a very aware culture. We have a quite a robust training and awareness program. And this is something that I talk about when I walk into a store. I can sit and have a 5-minute conversation with a tech about cybersecurity, or with a receptionist or somebody in marketing. There's always a conversation about cyber going on. And we're also very transparent. So if we do have an attempt or we have some sort of incident that we're remediating or that we're monitoring, we're very transparent to share it with all of our employees so that they understand that there is some seriousness behind this. If there's significant alerts from CSIS or the RCMP or any of those, we share those internally. We talk about ongoing scams, even if they're not scams that would directly impact the organization. We talk about dangers of social media and things that tools that people can take home and work with their families on. So we've just created a very cyber aware culture.
That's awesome. And I guess you must see a lot of stuff, especially if you consider all of the scam that are not always applying to what you do. And because, before it was more, don't talk about it, just delete it. And, now it's more, let's train around it. And I think it's a very good thing that you're there. Now, if you had the opportunity to go back in time, let's say 15 years, and talk with Jennifer about the cybersecurity and or your career, what would be your advice that you would be giving yourself?
I think the biggest one is that whole transparency aspect. It was something that I learned even before cyber was a terminology in my career. Um, I had an incident, and I think it had something to do with deleting a database copy or something. And these are mistakes that every single IT person will make at some point in their career. And the lesson, or the very first thing I thought is somebody told me, and I don't know, this could have been a boss from decades ago, said, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to own up to your mistakes. And I think that's one of the biggest, even in cyber. Like you said, a lot of people just, let's not talk about it, let's pretend it never happened. Every single event or every single attempt is going to be an opportunity for you and your team, and your senior leadership team to learn. And the more people understand the risk that your organization is facing or that you're facing, even as an individual, just, in society these days with digital credit cards and all of the digital footprint that we're leaving everywhere, um, is to, we have to talk about the things that are going on. Sweeping them under the rug isn't going to make them go away. It's just going to make us less aware. So I think that's probably where I would start. But if you said 15 years ago, and keep in mind, I tried my darndest to get out of IT. I wanted to be in operations and supply chain, and I kept trying to go back, but somehow the IT department kept reeling me back in. And I'm now at a point in my career where I've just given up and accepted that this is my fate. Um, but, I still cannot comprehend, I guess, looking back 15 years ago to IT versus now, that we're in this state of cyber threats and the cyber landscape that we're dealing with right now. It's still sometimes, even though I live it and breathe it every day, it's still sometimes a shock to me that this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, well, those are great advice. And we're in this ultra connected world now. And even I think we're not even where we're going to be in 5 years from now, I guess, with the AI and all of that happening. Well, Jennifer, it was a great pleasure. Very solid and fun conversation. I wish you a good rest of your day, and thank you again for being at GoCast.
Great. Thanks, Julian.